I think each of these things which are bringing about a change in the environment, it could be in the industry, it could be socially. If you don't keep yourself aware and alert about it and knowledgeable about it, you do start becoming irrelevant.
If you could leave one idea in the mind of every person listening to this conversation, what would that be?
This is something that I have actually written down. I'd like to read it out because
Go for
I
it.
really wanted to say something which made sense and I thought about it. And I think success is not measured by how many people know your name. It is measured by how many people are better because they crossed your path.
Not everything that matters needs to be loud. Some conversations help you pause, some help you see differently, and some stay with you long after they end. Welcome to Inspire Someone Today, my dear listeners, a space for honest conversations about life, work, and the choices that shape who we become. No quick fixes, no borrowed certainty, just real stories, thoughtful reflection, and the quiet courage to live with intention. This is Inspire Someone Today, where conversations are human, reflective, and meant to stay with you. Three days into her career at the Taj, a guest walked up to onto the front desk and her words just started blasting her. She went home that night and told her mother she was quitting. Her mother said something that ended up shaping the career next 35 years. He wasn't upset with you. He was upset with what he experienced. And if you leave as someone who can't handle an angry guest, I'll be disappointed in how you'll handle your life. She stayed 35 years at the Taj and building homestays families trusted with their most precious thing, the homes their parents left them. My guest today is Priya Vishwanathan, and this is a conversation about what hospitality really teaches you. Honesty, genuine care, the difference between service and servility. It's about turning a complaint into a gift, about what makes something go from good to great. And near the end, about the courage to walk away at the very top and find out who you are without the badge. It's a special one for us. This is part of the 6 years anniversary celebration, 4 back-to-back episodes. Inspire Someone Today, build the way she built everything, one honest story at a time. Stay with us to the end. Her final thought, one she would have written down before we spoke. It's the kind of line you will want to keep. This is Srikanth, and this is Inspire Someone Today. Let's get into it, folks. Let's get into it. Hey, my listeners, welcome back for yet another episode of Inspire Someone Today. It's an honor and joy to have Priya Vishwanathan to grace this episode of Inspire Someone Today. Priya, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. And it's an honor for me to be part of your anniversary show.
So, Priya, I'll jump right in. You have spent 30 years making strangers feel at home. What does your own home feel like when you walk into it after a long trip?
For me, my home has always been my comfort zone where I come in and I have no guards on. That's the main thing for me being at home. I'm safe, I'm secure, I can be myself. So my home is not a tailored, designed home. It's a lived-in home which has lots and lots of memories of my life and lots of memories from a lot of people who added to it. So that's what makes it really special and my space. So it really is my go-to place when I need to be in my comfort.
So you will go to space, your sanctuary, so to say. Before the Taj, who was the most hospitable person in your childhood? What did they teach you without ever saying it out loud?
Most hospitable, I think it always starts from your mother. You learn a lot from the person who brings you to this world. And I think my mother had a very strong influence on me. When we were young, I compare how hospitality or entertainment was when we were young versus today. So my home always had extra food cooked, and anybody who walked in, there was always an open arm to greet them in. we used to make fun of people calling up and say that you have to call up somebody before you go to their home. So my father would really laugh about it. But can you believe it today? That's how we all live. We never walk into somebody's house and just go there and say, hello, hi, how are you? And we've come to have a meal with you. And a meal is decided at least a week in advance, if not overnight. So in terms of hospitality, this is what my mom would say, Atiti Devo Bhav. But when I was brought up, I was always told constantly that you should treat the guest as God. And what resonated for me when I joined the Taj was the first day they said to me, guest is God. And if you look at it from the way the people in Taj, which we call the Taj Nest now, they are trained from the first day to treat the person who walks into their hotel as God. And I think what happened on 26/11, when people really stood there to protect their guests, that's like being in the armed forces. And that's so amazing. So hospitality just took a very easy turn for me when I joined it. But I came from a home where people were always welcome, and it was a lot about the guest and less about the family. So it was interesting the day it would just be four of us and my father would say, oh, what happened today? There's just four people on the table. That's my brother, myself, my mom, and my dad. Because we always had extra people at home. But unfortunately, as I've grown older, at least my house, it's never been the case. One, of course, I'm never at home. When I was working, I could entertain so much or people could walk in so easily. But I don't think that's something that my own son, who is now 22 years old, understands, that anybody can just walk into your house. So my major influence really came from my mom. And I think I just grew into the hospitality industry this way because of where I came from.
That's lovely. You touch upon two or three elements. One is your own home environment, the Tajness of it, and the Atiti Devo Bhava. Treat every guest as God. And as you talk about it, is there a guest experience from years ago you still think about? That guest who made you to feel in love with hospitality, or the guest who said, okay, this is not the kind of people that you would want to cater, but here we are, you had to cater to any kind of guest. So who is that guest who has left a lasting impression on you?
I think it must have been the third day at the Taj. I was standing at the front desk and I had a guest. I still remember his name was Mr. K.C. Singh. And he came and he just started blasting me. He was not polite. He was very mean to me. And I came from a house where nobody had ever raised their voice to me. You know how girls are treated in India, especially in North India, because I am actually a Punjabi. And in my home, I was treated, we have this thing called Kanchke. Girl is treated as a goddess. I was very pampered and loved. And here this man came and blew me up. And I came back and I said, I'm not going to work here. This is not the place for me. They're not nice people out here. So I went back home and that's the third day at the Taj. And I told my mom, I said, I'm not working here because the guests are very mean. And her point to me was that when you're working there, you're representing the organization. And when he was upset with you, he was not upset with you. He was upset with what he had experienced. And if you're going to work in this space, you have to represent your organization. You've got to take that blast. And if you're going to leave your workspace as a loser who can't even handle an angry guest, then I'm very disappointed with the way you are going to handle your life. So a turning point for me was that what we call later on in trainings, complaint is a gift. And I think every time a guest has complained and been not so polite to me, it was a learning that what we had to correct and what we did wrong. There were always people who were obnoxious, who were over the top. And there's a huge sense of entitlement in India amongst people when they come into, especially into five-star hotels, as we call them. But at the same time, there was so much of learning. So I won't say there was one guest who made an impact on me. I think most of my guests made an impact and they really worked in my development as a hotelier, where I learned so much from them. And then they would, of course, teach me beyond hotels. Many of them, I had a guest who I used to call as my grandfather because and I love stories. I lost him just when my son was going to be born. So he never saw my son. But he became so close that he actually came for my wedding. But there have been so many people who came and made an impact positive, and the negative ones taught me a lot. So my take here is that whatever is not so polite was actually a gift for me
That's a
in my
wonderful
learning curve.
perspective. If not for that advice on day 3 that your mom gave you, the 3 decades of your experience would have been cut short, I would presume. So hats off to that wonderful advice. And being in this industry for
Definitely.
over 3 decades and still continuing to be, what are those small gestures that you have created that has increased deep loyalty or patronage amongst your guest profile?
I think one thing which I realized was to be an honest person. And a lot of times we do these cover ups. We try to say that what is wrong is right, but because of something else. So if you tell one lie, I believe that's what life is all about. You tell one lie, you keep on continuing with lies. So I think relationship with guests and with people in these 35, 36 now years, I've been still working after I left the Taj, is I think one is honesty and the second is a concern and genuine care. If you are not able to understand where the person comes from, and that's what brings me to my earlier point, that if somebody is angry and they're upset, you really have to understand what their concern is before you start reacting to it. Because many times, a lot of us, we react to the behavior without really understanding where this person's coming from. Giving a very interesting example, we used to do these night shifts where at one time hotels would be sold by over 30%. And this is, I'm talking to you before Lehman Brothers happened. India was booming and hospitality was on a different boom in comparison to today. We didn't have so many systems, good structured processes the way hotels run today, where you had people like 20 guests waiting through a night shift. And I still remember the fact that I would tell them that they didn't have a room till early morning would literally have people wanting to hit me. And as a young girl who was standing there as a manager on duty, I would literally need to have my security stand there to take care of me because they were so upset. They've come after a 24, 32-hour flight and they're tired. They need a bed and I'm not being able to give them a bed. But one of the days when I had got blasted and I came back the next day for the shift and I was like scared again and I'm going to get blasted again. Nobody likes to be shouted at. But I actually had two of my guests standing there with a little flower in their hand to say sorry to me. And they said, it's not your fault. And I promise you that I blasted your boss during the day. And I was like, you didn't have to do that. But I'm just saying that if you're honest and you show them that you are doing your job and you limit yourself to doing your job, because many times, at least as a woman, I felt you can't go beyond that. You have people who look forward to being there. The whole thing of she is the Taj. That's how the guests relate with the ladies and the staff of the Taj, because we have been taught to actually go beyond what we are supposed to do. I still remark at what the guys did when the terrorists attacked, but the fact is that they had it in their blood that they had to take care of their guests before they took care of themselves, which is quite amazing, which only the armed forces do it. And here,
The difference that you brought out here. And it's also a very thin line, the hospitality or the service industry that you have. You did mention about the whole DNA of take care of your guests like as they're your own, or the other piece is you represent the organization. What a role that you play, you represent the organization. Then how do you draw a line between service and servility, right? How do you protect his dignity, a person's personality in a situation where he or she is not completely responsible for what the situation is, but still they are in that business of service, in the business of taking care of the customer.
servility is something that I think many times it's misconstrued and misunderstood by people. Being sorry without being genuine can be seen. And that's where sometimes you feel that somebody is misbehaving. I'm talking from a guest point of view. But from a manager or a leader's point of view, I think one thing which was very strong in the organization I worked with, and was one reason that the strength of code of conduct was so strong that you always had a shield given to you that nobody can misbehave with you and you can take that up. So that was the amazing part of it. But many times people don't understand and they tend to be, I would say, it's not the way they should behave. And that's where you have to tell them that please draw a line with your own instincts. Because many times, do you know how this person is behaving with you? And you have to be careful about it. But at the same time, you know what we call unobtrusive service, being too intrusive into the guest also can be very irritating from a service point of view. The organization needs to make the people feel strong to say no and have the ability to also understand the difference between the right and the wrong, because most of the people who are there in the front areas are very young people. They don't know that this is not the way to behave. And the other part is by being humble, you're losing your own dignity. So I think that you have to be dignified. And if you have to respect others, you've got to first respect yourself. Because civility comes when many times we don't have confidence in ourselves and we just think by being a little sorry and a little more humble, we'll get away with things which will not work for you. And then people tend to take you for granted.
It's a wonderful industry. As much as you kind of show service care, it also builds your own characteristics as an individual, right? I,
Hotel Management College, we were approximately around 100 of us. And 90 of us joined the hotel industry. And today, when I go to hospitality colleges, I think 10% of them join the hotels and 90% of them go elsewhere. And many times I'm trying to find out, why did you join? One is, of course, they didn't get through anywhere else, so they came to a hotel management college. The other, actually, it is for self-development. So even those 3 years of college, because you learn how to conduct yourself. You learn how to, we had a class in college called communication, but we were made to speak extempore. You were taught how to wear a sari, because this is not the way people normally at homes dress up, the way you dress up in a hotel. At least our times, it was not this ways. And there's also about how to articulate certain things, how to speak the bad news, how to speak the good news. Of course, we also had French, which was taught to us. So it helped us to speak in a language which was not our language. And we learned how to speak for our food and beverage.
moving along, you also went from strength to strength. You started working with a lot of the communities to create homestays. So you helped turn family homes into celebrated homestays, Brian. What did it take to convince a family that their ordinary home was worth opening up for strangers?
So first of all, I don't think we went to any home to come and join us. The joy and the pride of working for an organization like IHCL and a Tata company was that people came to us, "Okay, can you take my home?" So the whole industry, the homestay business turned around post-COVID. So it was just God's will and grace that the company started this business in 2019. Unfortunately, COVID happened, but one of the spaces in hospitality which really took a different turn was homestays. And people came to us because they trusted the organization. So property and this business per se in India is not one where you would easily give off your personal home to anybody. But here people came with so much of faith and trust that here is a company which will take good care. I won't lose my home and I'll be able to monetize my home. You've just got to be honest and truthful with them and hearing them out, because these were their personal spaces. A lot of attachment came here, Shrikant. They were talking about, this was my grandfather's. We had one home where the person actually named the property after his father. And it was a very luxurious home in Lonavala, but he left one real not so good looking writing table in the master bedroom. And I said, no, this can't be here. So he said, you can't touch it because that's my father's study table. But that, from our point of view, became a storytelling that this is the person who owned the house and this is his table. And not to say spiritualize around and make it into something quirky, but yeah, when you sat with the owners, you were able to bring in those special experiences that you wanted to create out of those properties only by listening to them. And they were very excited to co-create with you. So many times I found that while the house was owned by the man, the wives were left to deal with me because they were going to learn how to run a business for the first time. So it was a very interesting phase because it was very different from running hotels for me, because hotels is a very different business and homestay is a completely different business where your ownership is very different and your guest who's coming could be the same who uses the hotel, but their needs and requirements are completely different when they come here. So a lot of learnings and great experience.
I'm sure the mindset remains the same in terms of service. And in this industry, it takes very little to go from good to great, to turn experience from good to great. How do you see that? How do you sense that? Okay, here's an opportunity to turn this into a great experience. Or how do you sense amongst your own team, saying that somebody has that knack, somebody has that aptitude to consistently turn that good into great?
To see, one thing about good to great is very simple in our industry: give free things, which I never agreed with because I think I was in a business. I was not in a charity. The good to great really happens when you do something that touches somebody's heart. And that's where in this homestay business, we really try to cup those little nuances of feelings of a home. So giving you a few examples, like the food that was served here was not a fixed meal. The staff were not given standard recipes, but here the staff was only the cook, for example, was picked up who could cook well. But the instructions are very clear that you will change the recipe as per the guest requirements. So you understand how they want their food to be cooked. And many times we found, and that's what a home is all about, where the ladies, or even, and today it's very interesting, a lot of men are very particular about how their food should be cooked. The other example I'll share is the homestay. We created what we called a tea coffee station. Now that's a very hotel language. But our tea coffee station was like the way most homes are. You always have one corner in the house where these little snacks and the sweets are cornered in the kitchen or on the dining table or the corner of the sideboard of the house. So our standard of a tea coffee station was to have an amazing coffee machine. So we made sure that the best coffee machine with the best coffee beans, so that you had a great coffee, and a good tea setup was there. And you had some local, sweet and savories and sweets. So that actually turned into an experience which was very homely, which you'll never find in a hotel. And that's how the staff also started thinking that what can I do which is special for a guest over here, or ask a guest, is there a special moment? Is there a special experience? Can I serve you coffee outside? Because we knew that if you had coffee in the garden, it would be an experience because you're not used to drinking coffee in a garden, or hot coffee being served to you. Or it could be a simple thing as creating a little bonfire for you in the night, which is lovely because most of these places were in the beautiful climates, or having a barbecue outside, which you can't do usually. It's very easy in other countries, but barbecue is not really a tradition in India. But we all love our barbecued food in our marinades. So I think by creating some of these, which were standards in our business, we made sure our staff became intuitive and making our guests feel from good to great. So I'm happy to share that at least till I was there, our guest feedback, we call the net promoter score, was always 90 plus. So I took a lot of pride in that. And because my team made a lot of effort to make sure every guest went, they would say, the staff is literally making us eat out of their hands. And they were like, wow, the only person they thought was great was my staff. If anytime anybody wanted to complain, they'll say, your staff is doing a great job, but you are not doing a good job because you haven't taken care of blah, 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 blah. So that was a big compliment because obviously the staff is doing their best, and whatever needed to be corrected, I had to do that. So that was my job.
Nice. And Priya, having been in the industry for so long, what surprises you about the travelers of today compared to when you started off 10 years back?
A very sensitive question, Shrikant, and I hope nobody gets upset with me. But I think today's India is a little different. Today's traveler is a little more entitled. I was just on the weekend, I was staying at a really high end luxury hotel. I'd gone there for some work and I was just shocked with the way people were behaving. I always heard you went to a public place like a hotel and a restaurant. You behaved in a different manner so that you were comfortable with people around you. But today, I think people have become extremely, again, I'm using the word entitled, very demanding. And they treat people at the hotel like when you asked about civility, they treat them like servants. And that's where many times staff, to not fight with anybody, behave servile and say, yes, you're God and I will do whatever you want. But having said that, the difference between customers 10 years, 15 years back, used to call them Indians, foreigners. Today, everybody is a global citizen. The person who comes and stays at the hotels today in India is far more traveled than those foreigners who come into India. So their expectations are very high. If you are serving a Mexican dish, it better be authentic. You can't get away with doing a tarka dish for them. Also, this customer today is ready to spend for experiences and not just for brands. So they will go to any extent to have a unique experience and they pay like that. So across India, I think in our hotels, we are not looking out for foreigners today. We're looking out for Indians to spend. They spend better. They love living life and they're great customers, but some of them need to be trained a bit on how to behave.
That's a fair call out. I think with awareness, with entitlement also comes a sense of responsibility.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what does Tuesday morning look like to Priya, which was not the case 3-4 years back? What does it look like now versus what it was 3-4 years back?
1 year back, Tuesday morning is great. I sometimes lose my sense of morning, week, or which day of the week it is. And it's a sense of freedom because earlier it was like more, I was running against the clock. And today I let the clock run to the state that I want to. So it's an amazing day of my life and I'm really happy I've been able to get this at this stage in life. Grateful to God.
What does luxury mean to you now after having had a career inside it versus what it was back?
So my sense of luxury is very different from what is the dictionary word. For me, luxury is peace. It's quietude. Luxury means to live on my own terms. It really is a luxury because when you work each day of your life for minimum 12 hours a day, so when you can get up, you can see the sunrise, you can see the sunset, you can listen to music, you can go for a swim without looking at the clock and you can just float in the water. You can have coffee made by yourself at any time of the day. That's real luxury for me, Shrikant. But I really measure value. My luxury is my own space, my own time.
That's wonderful. So luxury in the small little things that you can savor and cherish.
I never had the chance to do it before. I used to look out and I would see these ladies when I'm rushing out at 8:30 in the morning because I had a 9 o'clock meeting. And I had these ladies going for a morning walk. I'd be like, what the hell? What have they done that? And I'm like running and evening I'd come back. They're sitting and gossiping. You know how it is in my building. And they've just done their little walk and now they're just having a chit chat. And I'm running in because I got to get dinner organized and there's a child at home. So it was, of course, this is real luxury for me today.
And Priya, 30 years inside one great institution, what has it been like now to step out of it on your own?
Shrikant, I lost my mother in COVID and I lost my father when I was very young. So I think I'll be very disturbed post-COVID. And I was looking out for the comfort of where I feel that I'm secure. But I realized one day that I can't keep on relying on others for my comfort and I need to go on my own. So I think leaving this great institution after 35 years has really led me to find the new version of myself, something that I did not believe in. And I remember many times I would be told that you don't know what you're capable of. They say she is the Taj, so you think that you are only the cause of the organization. I definitely cannot say that I am because of myself. I give a lot of credit to the organization where I work and to a lot of people, not just my colleagues, but my guests and others who helped me to develop my competencies and become who I am today. Of course, the family has been a very strong force for me. But walking out of there to find my new version and realizing what a burnout is after 35 years. It took me the 4 months to just get my act together. I just didn't know what I had done. I was enjoying doing nothing and being an absolute couch potato, which I enjoyed. But today I think I'm very happy with having my own space and working on my own terms. So I'm not defined by anybody else but myself. And I guess after losing your parents, you realize that you got to take your own responsibility. And I'm fortunate that I had my parents till a very late stage in life that I today can be responsible about myself. So yeah, I'm not that bad that I don't work any days, but I am now trying to be responsible about myself and about the work that I take up. And I take up work which makes sense to me. What does make sense to me, I'm able to avoid it very easily.
That's a lovely state to be in. You're at peace with what you've accomplished and you're at peace to what you want to do. And that also comes with a lot of clarity of thought that what is that you would want to do.
Yeah, but see, 35 years, like one of my colleagues would say, we work for literally 70 years like anybody else because most people do 6 to 8 hours of work and hoteliers don't work for less than 12 hours a day. And we literally work 7 days a week. So I think I've had my fair share of hard work. And yeah, I'm fortunate that I'm at peace with myself. And I'm fortunate that I'm able to, I still work hard. I'm not, please don't misunderstand. I was working hard today, but I'm only responsible to my own self in terms of my accountability today, which is great.
Yeah. I think it's a good point, a very valid point to call out as well, saying that taking things easy is not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's many times we get caught in that what you call chakravyuh. And a lot of times our identity is with the organizations we work with without realizing that we have an identity of our own. Also, many times we're not able to move out of our comfort zone. If I was to say, I'm glad I had a great comfort zone with IHCL, where after 35 years, I knew what I was doing with myself and I had a bit of a command over my work. But at the same time, it's good to move out of your comfort zones and push yourself a bit also. Otherwise, you're not developing or growing as an individual, as a professional. And what this really did to me was to push myself. To share an example, when I left the Taj, I think the first month I did a course on AI. And I have a son who is doing his BTech in computer science and he thought it was really funny. I realized that what had I not done? It was so stupid because it's an enabler. For me, AI is an enabler. I won't say that it is going to take away any of my proficiency away and I will become redundant. But a lot of jobs which took so much time and I used to waste so much of my energy in doing it, so easy with this. And it also works as a great mentor and guide in many ways. Keep using it often. I think these platforms start talking to you in this interesting manner to rethink what you're trying to do. So I think building skills was something that I continue to do even today after leaving the working for 35 years. I believe that I will have to continue because the world is evolving in such a crazy manner that if you don't keep yourself abreast with the latest, you will become redundant very soon. It's been an interesting almost 14 months of leaving my job and being on my own. And while I'm enjoying it, I think I'm pushing myself because there's nobody to tell me. There's no performance review happening for me to say you've done this job well or you're doing this badly. I have to do it for myself and see what more I can do to make myself more proficient and better for what I want to do in my job.
And all of this is stemming from the fact that you want to be the better version of yourself. Nobody is telling you to do so, but you are taking it on because you want to be the better version of yourself.
And that really comes from having worked in an organization. When you're working, you realize what is competition, which is constantly forcing you to be better than them. How do you have an edge over your competition? How do you make your product, your services relevant? How do you make sure that whatever you are presenting to your customer is something which is unique and of high quality? I think being in this business always pushed us to be better than what we did yesterday. Otherwise, we would have started becoming irrelevant. If you see how the organization and the leaders in the organization constantly push the staff, sometimes it can be very irritating when you're working with them that why is there so much of pressure? But at a strategic level, you realize that if that pressure is not there, you will never be constantly making something better than yesterday. And maybe because you've been trained constantly to believe that you can't be the same as yesterday, having left the job, I still feel that, yeah, I have to keep on pushing myself. And I also see, I think I've been born in this age. I was brought up by my grandmother and mother who saw partition. And I heard lots of stories of the British, of what happened in the British Raj, and what was the condition of the country when India got freedom. And then came my mother's generation, which was trying to make India happen. And the time when I started working was when the opening of doors and allowing people, other companies and other industries to come into India with the limitations or whatever. So the India started opening its doors. So I have actually seen in the last 5 decades of my life so many changes which have constantly happened. And I realized at some point that my mother, who was such a relevant, intelligent, and up to date person, one thing which she did not really make an effort to was learning computers. And at one point, she suddenly started feeling irrelevant, which was very unfair on her because she was not just a very intelligent woman, but she was I think, a very competent human being. And one learning for me with AI being told as such a big devil that's going to take away jobs, it's going to happen. But I think each of these things which are bringing about a change in the environment, it could be in the industry, it could be socially. If you don't keep yourself aware and alert about it and knowledgeable about it, you do start becoming irrelevant. And I guess I'm into the second phase of my life. After 50, you better start seeing that you don't have those major generation gaps. Of course, there is a difference in thinking between one generation to the next. But at least in terms of basic understanding of the social context, about the technology context, I still have to keep on learning. And I am trying to understand the words the youngsters use. It's not just AI that I'm trying to learn and their thought process, because you've got to finally work with them. You can't find everybody who's like-minded like yourself. And I've been in an industry where you work with people. So if you don't understand their psyche, you'll never be able to get them to work for you.
I love that you're just for learning, you're just to constantly get better in whatever trade that you have. That's fantastic. Let's keep going. We get into a segment of our conversation, what I call a power of three round. Here we go. The first of the power of three round question coming to you, Priya. 3 words your team would use to describe you.
I think tough, demanding, and at the same time caring.
Nice, good start. 3 things that make a house a home.
Comfort, easy to use, and unobtrusive.
Okay. 3 people, living or gone, you would seat them and have dinner at the table. And why?
Those 3 plus me.
Yes, 3 plus you. But it can be 3 individuals, 3 separate individuals, 3 one-on-one with you.
I think 3 people I'd love to sit on the table, which I know I can't get back, is I'd like to speak with Mr. Tata, with my mom, and with my guru, Swami Chinmayanan. So for different reasons, of course, each one of them, what they've done and how they've affected my life.
3 things every great host does that have nothing to do with money.
Compassionate, caring, and genuine.
Nice. Compassionate, caring, and genuine. 3 questions every leader should ask their team, but rarely does.
What is going wrong? What can we do better? And what can you do to make the wrong become better?
Priya, if you and I were to have this podcast again 5 years from now, what would 3 pieces of advice that you would give to Priya, the future self?
Oh, for myself, you're asking me to give myself an advice. Start living life, start loving yourself more, and help those whoever you can.
Nice. That was the Power of 3 round segment. As we move on, Priya, what's the first unglamorous thing someone does the morning after they decide to dream bigger?
I will tell you to start taking care of yourself. Start loving yourself, because finally in life, this is one person you cannot get rid of, because you have to stay with yourself. So take care of yourself, take good care of yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
Take care of yourself. The focus is on take care of yourself, and focus is on get better as yourself as well. That seems to be the theme that is playing out here, Priya.
Yes.
Like we discussed right at the start, IST turns 6 this year. Built from nothing, one story at a time. And you have built things that outlast you too. What keeps a long project alive past the point where most people quit?
I think the project intent will always be the same. You can't change the intent. But you need to understand, like if you were to talk about IST, you need to understand what audience is wanting from you. So anything which is one of the examples which we always take in the question like yours is companies that became relevant after changing themselves, but their intent always remained the same. One example is of Britannica. So as a child, I remember we always wanted to have a volume of Britannica. And then came the CDs, and today it's all available online. The company actually shut down. But there are companies which have reworked on themselves, and individuals, your podcast, which needs to keep on reinventing itself based on the changing needs of your customer, your audience. And if you don't do that, you become irrelevant. So it's for an individual, it's for a podcast, it's for an organization, it's for nations.
Reinvention is the name of the game. You have to stay relevant, you got to reinvent given the times.
Yeah,
The organization goes
but
to
do
the
it
individual goes.
sensibly. This reinvention sometimes I think is taken to another extent, that you can't just by changing black to white doesn't mean reinvention. It really means to understand who is the user and what their needs are, and then do the reinvention. So staying relevant with what's happening. And like I was trying to say earlier also, if the way the world is changing so dramatically, if you do not keep yourself relevant, your product relevant, your services relevant, you're going to be redundant.
That's so true. And on that context, if I were to ask you, who is that one person you find genuinely inspiring? And what is about that person that has stayed with you?
I have a very strong influence because I think she was a very strong personality. Came from a simple, small location in Himachal Pradesh, and working in a place like Delhi. We lost our father at a very young age. So I saw her turn from that sweet little woman into a fierce entrepreneur, because she had to take care of 2 very young children of hers. So she left a huge impact on me, because I think one thing which she taught me was to be always logical and not constantly emotional, which many times we get swayed with emotions and we lose the logic of why we're doing things. And the second thing, to never be a loser. I left my job after 35 years. And her point to me was that never leave the job when you're at the lowest. When you're at the height of and everybody's happy with you, then walk up. I'm not saying I didn't have those highs in 35 years, but I think I had to just weigh the pros and cons in Delhi. So he's been a huge influence in shaping my thinking and making me the person that I am today without just being the sweet mother, which usually a mother is. So she was constantly keeping me grounded and not letting me get swayed just because I was her little darling.
So wonderful to see how some of those ingredients has helped to take shape just not your career but you as an individual. So yeah, this has been one great conversation. Thank you for walking us through the memory lane. Thank you for letting us know what makes it to build a great organization, what makes it to build great teams around you. Before you and we wrap up, if you could leave one idea in the mind of every person listening to this conversation, what would that be?
This is something that I have actually written down, Shrikant, and if you don't mind, I'd like to read it out because I really wanted to say something which made sense and I thought about it. And I think success is not measured by how many people know your name. It is measured by how many people are better because they crossed your path. Real work is people feel they matter. And that is what is hospitality and leadership. So my point to everybody is make yourself relevant and make a difference to others. That's what makes you relevant. You can't always think of yourself. You have to think of being relevant for all your stakeholders in a manner of speaking, including the environment.
So that's the parting message from Priya. Journey beyond self, journey about being the larger than what the names, what the titles will all tell us. Listeners, on that specific note, go out there, make a difference, make it relevant, make yourself relevant and make people around you relevant for the times that we are in. So yeah, thank you so much for taking time and having this lovely conversation with me and my listeners.
Thank you so much, Shrikant, and I wish you only the very best in your endeavors.
Thank you for spending this time with us. Conversations like this remind us that growth doesn't always come from answers. It often comes from better questions. Inspire Someone Today began with the belief that each of us has the power to make a difference. Not through grand gestures, but through everyday choices. That belief still holds, now with a little more depth and a lot more listening. If something from today's episode stayed with you, carry it forward, share it, sit with it, or explore it further through the IST community or the book Inspire Someone Today. Until we meet again, stay curious, keep inspiring, and inspire someone today.